So when it comes to us as notaries, it's very important for us to find ways to be very clear and transparent on or off social media, because when we should be talking the same language unilaterally when it comes to what our fees are, because they're based on statute. So the goal is to help the public be knowledgeable as far as what to expect when they come to any notary. And I've been hearing a lot of concerns about consumers being overly charged, and without having the history of what happened, then it's all about just hearing someone say, I can't believe they're charging all of this, amount, without having, again, specifics. So I like to make sure that you guys are doing everything by the book, so that you don't have any issues where the Secretary of State is going to investigate you. There is a notary, and he makes it very clear. He is going through websites and social media pages to see if you're putting out information that's questionable. And if he feels that you may be one of those notaries that's overly charging the consumers, he's reporting you. Now, whether you get a call from the Secretary of State Compliance Department, again, it could happen at any given time if they themselves feel that it is something concerning. So the goal is, again, to make sure that you're doing everything by the book, so that way you do not have that situation where someone's coming after you and you have no idea, why. So protecting yourself, protecting the public. And as a notary, yes, I feel that we should all make sure we're doing everything by the book, because if I see a notary doing something out of compliance, I'm not going to report them right away. My goal is to approach them and let them know what I've observed, just to make sure they are either unaware, or let them be able to tell me exactly why they're actually doing what they're doing, because they may think they're doing everything correctly. So I like to make sure I give them an opportunity, and then I can tell them exactly where the information is if it's something that they're not clear on. Now, if it's something that I can confirm they've been deceptive, then I have no tolerance for that, because again, it really disturbs the entire position as notaries when you have someone that's purposely deceiving people. So the goal is to keep the right people in, and making sure that, again, when it comes to our responsibilities as notaries, we are supposed to report someone that's doing things wrong purposefully. Okay, so again, there's notaries that I've approached that could be from a different state, and when I hear about someone giving gifts and things of that nature, and tipping, as a public official, you should never receive any gifts or tips when you're actually in your notary hat, because that's compromising your integrity of possibly looking like, or it can look like you've been bribed. And you can only imagine when you're dealing with politics, how that can look, how, again, it's across the board for all public officials to not take tips or gifts over a certain amount, because the goal is for everybody to play fair and really make sure they're doing everything equally across the board. So again, I know everybody is not doing that, which is why this is a concern. So the goal is for you to know that, again, if you're in my community, I hope you guys are looking out for each other, but making sure that everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing fairly, so we can be the best representation for the public with our public official duties. That is always most important, is, again, protecting the consumers, those that we're serving, against forgery and fraud. And how can we do that if we're part of the problem? So again, you have to make sure you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. So that's not a issue or complaint or concern, because Ozzy Stallworth and his team is going to come for us if we're doing something out of compliance. Okay. So again, you're never above the law. Attorneys have gotten themselves in trouble as well as judges that once were attorneys. I mean, this was something that has happened within the last 5 years. And so again, no one is an exception. All right. So we're going to get to our actual presentation. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, so this is Don't Get Sued or Shorted, North Carolina Notary Fees and Travel Rules Explained. Now, as we know, there's the updated curriculum that has been, again, taught starting in January. So newer notaries have been introduced to a lot of information that in our manual, of course, is still showing old information. So the goal is hopefully in April, we'll have the new manual and everything will start making more sense with all the changes that has actually happened over the last 4 years. So for those that became a notary before July 8th of 2022, you may or may not be aware of these changes and updates, which is what will be covered today. So this is about the standard. So the big change, as of 2026 traditional notary public course, the maximum fee for Traditional Notaries Act, which is acknowledgments, jurats, verifications, or proofs, is $10 per principal signature. Again, this has been taken in effect since 2022. All right. However, when we have our newer manual, this will actually be updated to reflect the $10 versus the $5 that we see right now in our current manual. So again, there has been a lot of confusion where I've heard notaries like, oh, is it not $5? And I'm like, well, if you want to still offer $5, you have that option. But the max that you can charge is $10 per notarial signature that you actually witness and notarize. So again, it's always about making sure you stay up to date with the legislation. If you are not on the Secretary of State email list, please take the time to actually get yourself on that list. So when there's any changes, any alerts, you will actually get the information as soon as everybody else do from the Secretary of State, where you don't have that, deer in the headlights moment because of something that has been brought to your attention that as a notary, you should know. And this is one of the reasons why it's very important to stay close to an association that can actually share this information with you. Also, if you, for whatever reason, are not getting communications directly from the Secretary of State's office. So the goal is to always be involved, be included, and just knowing that you are going to get the information as soon as there's any update so you can do your due diligence to the public. All right. So again, this is from North Carolina General Statutes 10B31, 1 and 2, and you can refer back to page 62 and update that part that says $5 for the amount that we can charge per signature, as well as we cannot charge for mileage. Update that information until we get the newer manual. And that way you will now see whenever you go to that page and you're studying and reviewing, everything is now updated based on your physical updates in your book. And that's the best thing you can do for yourself. So that you can make sure there's no mistakes when you're communicating this information to your customers. So when it comes to travel fee and the transparency, so it's legal with rules, because again, the 26 manual tells us differently. You can now charge a travel fee, but it must be agreed upon in advance. The travel fee cannot exceed the current federal business mileage rate, which is of January of this year. It is now 72.5 cents per mile. So that is something you want to, again, make sure if you have anything from when we first began, which was, I think, like 0.65 cents. I have to go back because I can't remember verbatim, but it goes up every year. So that is something that is definitely a pro for us to be able to get some compensation for our travel, especially if you're going a very long distance. And then you must provide the principal with an itemized receipt that separates the notarial fees from travel fees. All right. And again, this is something that if a customer is requesting this, you want to make sure you're prepared and you have this ready for them. So you can take a receipt book with you. If you're someone that does digital invoicing, that is another option. But it's good, and you need to make sure it's clearly defined what you are charging. So again, the transparency is very important so that you don't have any qualms with your customer when they're looking into information that they may have discovered. I paid a whole lot more, a month ago doing the same paperwork. Why did they charge me this? So again, the goal is to make sure you're keeping things honest, because there are going to be notaries that are bad notaries out there. So you don't want to be in that category ever. This can be cited from the 18 from our North Carolina Administrative Code. And so again, you can go to the website to get this. I would actually make sure I get that information to you as far as the web page, so you can go through and have this hopefully bookmarked on your actual desktop or whatever electronic device you're using to get information electronically, and download some of these for yourself when it comes to that being updated. So again, do yourself a favor by staying compliant and staying up to par with everything that's happening. So now I'm breaking down the estate package. This is the reason why I actually decided to do this topic tonight, because of a situation that I've heard, and I'm thinking that more than likely there's a company out there, or companies, I'll say that with plural, that are considering themselves hiring notaries, and if they're a notary themselves, shame on them, that are charging consumers a certain amount of money to find a notary. Well, consumers, unfortunately, apparently do not know that they can actually go to the Secretary of State site and find a notary at no charge. And then once they actually locate a notary, the notary can tell them what their fee is based on what type of document, or I should say, how many signatures need to be notarized for the different documents that they may need their assistance for. So again, because of that, this is, again, something that's going to go over a little bit more detail, so you can actually have more of an idea how to position yourself when it comes to any questions that the public may bring to you when they're looking for a notary. So when it comes to handling multiple signers and witnesses, you can charge per notarized signature, not per document. I've heard notaries say, well, I only charge based on how many stamps I put on the paper. Well, if you have multiple signers, you are shorting yourself when you actually charge your fees, and probably unknowingly, because again, if that's how you conceive the information as far as how you charge, then that is not correct. And so again, I'm hoping that I can help some of you that may have been challenged in this area be a little bit more aware and being able to position yourself better moving forward. And so let's look at the math for a lot of the common estate planning scenarios. And this is generally what I have dealt with for the majority of my estate plans that I actually help with signers. So when it comes to the different documents, the signatures and the fees, this is how the breakdown is. So if you have a customer that has a living will, a self-proving will, a healthcare power of attorney, a durable power of attorney, this is how the signatures that you will be actually notarizing for. You're going to have the signer, and you're going to have two witnesses. And this is going to be for the living will, self-proving will, and the healthcare power of attorney. If you do not have those two witnesses, then that's an issue, because in the state of North Carolina, that is a requirement, and it is under statute. You're not going to find it under the notary statute, but you will find it under powers of attorney, as well as the statute for will. So again, those are additional statutes that you have access to that can be found on the .gov site. And then when it comes to actually charging, it's going to be 3 signatures that you are witnessing and notarizing. That's $10 per signature. So that's broken down to $30 when you actually multiply the $10 per person that you're actually notarizing for. When it comes to the durable power of attorney, you only have the signer's signature, and there's only one area that they sign. And so when it comes to that, it's going to be just a $10. So the subtotal for all of the signatures for these 4 documents is $100. All right. Then when it comes to travel, as an example, if you actually drove 20 miles round trip, then that's going to be 20 miles times 725 cents. And that's going to be $14.50. So when it comes to the whole total of what you should actually receive, if you're going to charge the full amount, is $114.40. So as you can see, this can be very beneficial with one trip when you have multiple documents in this setting versus one document. Okay. So now the next scenario is going to be dealing with a car title, and you may have 2 sellers. So the scenario is a husband and wife are both listed as sellers on a North Carolina vehicle title. You must perform an acknowledgement for both individuals. It does not require a jurat. The fee is going to be 2 signatures at $10, equaling $20. And so this is how, again, you are able to identify how you actually properly charge someone for the notarial fee when you're dealing with the fact that you have 2 people personally appearing before you that you're going to properly identify when it comes to recording their information in your journal and being able to move forward with witnessing their signature and then notarizing on the document. So again, when you think about 2 people on a situation like this, is per person, again, before you. So I've heard people say, well, I've always charged $10, and it could have been multiple people. And now they understand how they actually did not actually get a full amount of what they could have received. And it's not sometimes a big deal for some people because there's a lot of notaries that are just doing it as a free opportunity to serve the public, a way for them to give back. But the statute says we can charge. So there's no argument when it comes to them saying, well, I don't charge. That's their decision. However, they should not impose their decision on others when the statute actually says we can charge. So that's something, again, I want you guys to actually be able to feel confident about when you do that. Now, when you can't charge is when you're dealing with the credible witness. This is one of 2 situations. And again, this helps when you can actually understand why or what's in place and how to properly do just that. So if a credible witness is used as satisfactory evidence, can the signer of the document be charged a $10 fee when their credible witness cannot? So you are going to get something, but you can't get something from another person. So the breakdown. You can charge for the notarial act performed for the principal, the signer, because just like if they had their actual ID, if they had their passport or actual state issued ID, that is the satisfactory evidence that you are not charging the evidence. You're only charging the fact that the person has appeared before you and you're actually notarizing their signature. Well, similar to that, they don't have a document per se, but they do have a credible witness, which is equal to the state ID. And so you can't charge that credible witness when you put them under oath to actually vouch for the identity of that principal signer that you don't know. But because, again, you have them vouching because you know the credible witness, but you don't know the signer, you mutually both know the credible witness. So the credible witness is like the satisfactory evidence that you don't charge, but you can charge the signer for still notarizing their signature because that's what we're doing. So that, again, you want to make sure you understand how to break down the understanding of what you can and cannot do and why that is the case, because again, general statutes tell us we cannot. And so you still can charge always for the principal signer in this case scenario. All right. So this is something, again, I want you guys to always know what to do and what not to do when it comes to how you really actually charge for your fee. So now I'm bringing it to you guys, to the audience, for any questions you may have. There is a Q&A section that you can always put your questions at, where the chat is labeled. So you see the part that says everyone, that's for the chat. but you want to go to the Q&A if you want to actually put in a question. Otherwise, I will ask you to raise your hand, which is at the top, that says raise. And we can actually take your questions or comments at this time. Yes, Miss Vicki.
I'll give an example of something that happened with me last week. Someone talked to me to come to their house to notarize a minor power of attorney. Okay. And they said there was 2 of them. Okay. And I said, it's $10 per notarized signature. Okay. And 2 documents, it says it'd probably be $20. Okay. Got there, ended up being the husband and the wife had to sign each document. She had the $20 laid on the table. I still thought $20. I got home and started logging it into my journal and realized, oh, that was really 4 signatures. But I had quoted $20 earlier, and I basically honored that because I didn't want to change it, because she never really said up front that I needed to have 2 different people sign the document. So although I said it was $10 per notarized signature, I honestly did not think that it would have been 40 until I got home. It didn't even click while I was there that it would have been $20 per document in that case. What would others have done in that case, where you realize after the fact that, oh yeah, I told them the right statute amount, but the total I gave them was the wrong amount.
But as you stated,
I lost $20.
As you stated, you had that conversation and it was understood it was just her that was over the phone. But before I answer your question, I'm gonna go ahead and let someone else answer that. Hey, Miss Linda, go ahead.
Typically, when I do documents, because I know citizens sometimes do not know about documents, typically I would say it's $10 per signature, but I have to make sure I look at the document to ensure that it is how many signatures needed. So I do let them know it's $10 per signature, but then again, I have to look at the document as well. And then I give them the price.
Okay.
It didn't even ring a bell. And when I was doing it, it should have been $20 per document. I mean, it didn't even click in my brain. And yeah, I know the difference until I got home and went, oh.
It happens.
And
that's okay.
It does happen. But this is, and thank you for that scenario, Ms. Vicki, because that's real. It did happen. What notaries you can always do is create a checklist. That way you have something you can refer to on every single call when it comes to those questions that you should ask before visiting someone, when it comes to giving them a quote over the phone. Many times if a person seems to be unsure about where I need to notarize or how many areas need to be notarized, I just make it very clear. Based on, again, statute is $10 every time that I will notarize your document for your signature and anyone else's signature, which is a separate $10 fee. Try to make sure it's very clear, and then I follow up in a written statement where they can actually see and read it as far as how everything is calculated. And again, remember transparency. This is something I voluntarily do because I want to make sure there's no reason for them to question anything, just because of how I have handled things in the past where I felt that is going to be a better way of communicating beyond just verbal, but having it in writing so they can go back to what was actually communicated in writing outside of the verbal, because some people hear what they want to hear. And I don't want to be arguing with anyone when it comes to me giving a service and me wanting to be compensated for that. That way I make sure everything is, again, in writing. I'm going to have Ms. Camille and then Bianca.
Hey everyone. For me, I find always, because I've learned that hard lesson a couple of times, and no, I don't typically, if I misquote or if I'm not sure, I don't know. I just typically don't correct it. But I'm gonna stop doing that this year. But it's always a good rule of thumb to ask how many people are actually signing. Sometimes that'll just kind of like, okay, how many people are signing? How many documents? And that kind of gives you a better idea on what to expect. Because if they just say, if you think you're just talking to one person and you get there and it's, 2 or even 3 or more people there to sign. Well, obviously that's going to change, but sometimes we don't want to change what we quoted, but especially when you're dealing with, some seniors and things like that, and, people are on a fixed income. But for me, it's always been good for me to ask. It always helps when I ask how many people are signing how many documents.
Right. Good job. And again, when you get burned long enough, you will start changing things, because that's all about elevating, finding things that have to be addressed, and how you can improve upon those things. Again, we don't know, or better yet, we learn from our mistakes, and let those mistakes be lessons. So it doesn't have to be a negative situation all the time, but it's all about what did you learn from that to make that not be a redundant or repetitive situation. So again, creating a checklist, having something on your phone. Google Keep has great ways of having a checklist where you can actually pull it up on your phone. Everything is digital without having to keep up with a piece of paper, where you can just go through all of the checks, and you can literally check each box, okay, as you're talking to your customer. So this is something that you will build a system over time, because this is how you actually, again, control exactly the situation that you're about to come into. So that's always beneficial. Deanna, you're next.
I just want to say that right after we did that mastery class, I had got my business cards in, and I'm actually cut back my hours on my full-time job. So I'm now PRN. I'm like transitioning. So before I left, I was getting people like, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And people always in your business, But I was heading out my business cards. I was like, I'm starting something new, a new journey, So here you go, here you go. So on that Thursday, my last full-time day, I gave one of my doctors my card. And another one of my doctors said, well, why can't I just go to the bank? And I was like, because you just might need something. You just never know. So this other doctor, I gave him my card on Thursday. And he called me Saturday morning. They had a form that needed to be filled out. His son was in New York and needed some papers done, yada, yada. And so he texted me and he was like, can I use your services today? And I was like, absolutely. So what time, when and where? But it was one of those kind of like a POA thing, something they were doing for something, his son, I don't know. But I remember writing in my notes, because I was going through my notes, and we had them to read aloud for the 2 witnesses and, the whole 9. But they had 2 copies. So they were asking me how much it was. And at first I over quoted, but then I was like, no, it's actually only $20, because you just have 2 forms and it's just this signature that I'm doing. And then they tried to tip me. We appreciate you.
Yeah, because they don't know.
Yeah, we really appreciate you. This is such last minute. I was like, no, but we insist. And I said, well, legally, I can only charge you $10. Oh, well, we don't want to get you in trouble, So they understood. I mean, I appreciated it, but they understood. But it was really good going through those classes and reaffirming myself, and having actually seen the document really helped. And I like when you break down the things like how to get paid for certain things, because it really came in handy and that was my first one that I had ever done. So it was a good help.
Kudos to you, because you retained the information, you applied, and not only that, but you invested in your additional training. This is something that, again, I do encourage, always be learning. You can independently, take time to look at YouTube videos and refer back to your manual, so you can make sure that when it comes to things you hear that, again, you're not sure about, go back to your manual, go to the General Statute, just so you can fact check anything that you hear on social media, YouTube, because not everybody is talking the same information, because not everyone is in North Carolina. And Deanna, do you have a Google Business profile page?
So I was working on it, and then I don't know what happened to it. So now I got to start over, because I can't find it. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow.
So you don't have to create a new one. I'll just walk you through so you can find what you currently have, because it's going to be under your Google account. So if you have more than one Google account, You just have to look at and find the little Google business icon for each account to see what comes up.
Okay. Yeah, you had to walk
So
me
that's so with that, the reason why I had asked about your Google business profile, when someone wants to tip us, and then that we can't actually accept that. What we can accept is a 5-star rating and a great Google review
And he
from
asked,
them, and that
and
could
he
be a
asked
tip.
me about that. He asked me about it, and I said I will do my best. I said I'm working on it. It's getting up, and I'll let you know. And I actually had to go back and redo it because in the certificate, the way it was printed, you know, all the words get jumbled together, and we missed a line, and I felt horrible. And I had to go to New York, so I met him at his office at 8 o'clock the next morning to get it done. And I was not going to charge them at all because I felt like it was my responsibility. It was my mistake. I apologize.
Okay.
But they insisted on he insisted on paying me again. And I was not going to argue with this man in his office full of patients. But so lesson learned. And we did check over it. You know, I checked over it. They checked over it. So I don't know. We got caught up. I did one set and not the other set. They were the same documents, but
Okay.
so we just missed one page of one set. But I did correct it and I apologized. But yes, he did ask me about my Google page so that he could do a review. And his wife said they would use me from now on. So it was good.
Now you're considered their preferred notary. And so This is what I'm gonna share with you guys from what Deanna just shared. And that's a beautiful scenario. This was your very first notarization. I applaud you and commend you for actually taking a leap, because you did it. I know you had shared it with me that you actually had one coming. I kept, prayers for you to actually go through. Many times, because it's your first one, you may overlook something. And trust me, the more you guys do this, you're going to start saying, oh, good Lord, I forgot this, I forgot that, I forgot. The more you forget, the more you're going to start remembering, okay? It's going to improve your behaviors when it comes to what you're going to pay attention to. So again, give yourself grace, Missy. And I'm glad that they identified that you actually want to make it right. So instead of you saying, oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, or I didn't realize, or it's your fault. Some people deflect. And that's the worst thing you can definitely do when it comes to working with someone. Customer service orientation, etiquette is very, very important. It's how you conduct yourself. You're very professional. You told them you were going to do it at no charge because you felt it was your era. And it was. And they appreciated the fact that you admitted to your wrong and you was there to correct it. And that's why they wanted to pay you, because you were being a professional and you were sharing your honest, mistake and willing to correct that. That's the best thing we can ever do is own up to our mistakes and be accountable. Everyone makes a mistake. We are imperfect human beings. And so our goal is to always strive for excellence. Excellence comes with doing things more and more over and over again and improving along the way. So this is something that we all can actually benefit from. So thank you for sharing your story.
I had notarized a few other things, but this was the first type of form.
Different document.
It's a different type of document. And it was like a POA or something like that. But yeah, it was definitely a lesson learned to, no matter how many times you check one more time just to make sure. And his wife had 2 copies. And so he kept getting the papers mixed up. So I'm not sure if that's how I missed it, because we were going back and forth. But I did follow up with them like a couple days later to make sure that their son got the forms and that everything was good. And she said, yes, thank you for reaching out. So it was definitely it was good for me to go through that. And I'm glad it was somebody that I knew to make that mistake with. They gave you a little bit of grace, I felt like, so it was good.
That's wonderful. So happy ending. And you got more to come. So that's, again, it's really great to have loyal customers, and you can always follow up with a thank you card.
Yes, most definitely will.
All right, and so we have Monica next.
I wanted to share about the text message from the Finest Mobile Notary. They contacted me to do a car title, and I shared it with Belinda. And they expressed that the driver's license had expired in November 2025, and that the document is with the client. There was no need to print it out or scan it. So I guess they refer it as a signing service as well. And they didn't want anything back except for me to give them proof via email. So I was just sharing that. So if you come across anything, always check, because I did a check after I spoke with Belinda. I let her know that I checked with the Better Business Bureau. And I also went online and looked up the company to see if they existed. Right after I read it again, and it said that the license had expired in November 2025.
And with that, because remember, back in July 2026, July 1st, 2025, excuse me, that's when the Department of Motor Vehicles had announced that they were extending those driver's license or state IDs that expire after that day of July 1, 2025, 2 years. And this is something that you guys can do with your marketing efforts. Educate consumers on your pages, on your website, on your Google Business profile, that although the DMV has extended a grace period of 2 years, if they need something notarized, they're going to need to have a second form of identification, like their passport, that shows it is in good standing and it's not expired, because we cannot accept an expired ID, not even 1 day after it expires. It's clearly in the statutes. There's no exceptions to that. And so even though, again, the DMV has their own rules that they can create and follow, we have laws that we have to abide by. So we want to make sure they are not under this impression that, oh, well, I have an extension, it's waived, so why can't you accept this? We have to let them know it's the law. We have to follow that. So again, this helps you, again, stay honest, no arguing. It is what it is. And if they ever want to complain, you can tell them this is the number to the Secretary of State's office. You can talk to someone there. Again, your goal is to help them understand you're staying compliant and you're wanting to make sure you keep your commission without it being subjected to being revoked or suspended. It's not worth it. Any other questions or comments? We're doing good on time. It's 7:22. Any praise reports? Hey, Tina.
Hey, I was just wanting to bring your attention to Letitia Wallace's question about, I was communicating with her, but I want to make sure that I'm correct as well. She had a woman ask her to notarize a title. Did you see that question, Belinda?
No, I haven't been able to look
Okay.
at the chat. So
She's the buyer. The seller will not be present and already signed the title. I initially said I could not do the notarization. Could I recommend a credible witness who isn't benefiting, acknowledge the seller who doesn't want to be present, signed willingly? So I told her that she would need to know the credible witness. You have to acknowledge the seller's signature, right? Then she says that she could, there's a possibility that she could know the witness because she lives in a small community. However, I found, in my understanding, she would have to know the seller as well. They both have to know, right?
So
On
when
a
it comes
title.
to some of the credible witness,
Yes. On a
so
car
the credible
title.
witness, but yeah, a credible witness though needs to be able to identify, should be a mutual person that they both know. The signer knows the credible witness as well as the notary knowing that credible witness. Now, what I'm trying to be clear on is the signer making an actual appearance? That is a must for them to acknowledge that they signed the title before the notary.
The seller was not going to appear in front of her. It was only the buyer.
Oh, well,
So
then there's no way you can
declined it.
notarize that
She
document.
did the right thing.
Okay.
But I would probably avoid the credible witness. You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree.
Unless the seller was in front of her.
I mean, so this is the only way a credible witness can even work. The seller still has to be there.
Right.
A power of attorney is the only exception of a principal signer not being involved, is because they have given power to their attorney, in fact, to sign for them. And that's the only way you will not see an actual principal signer in that capacity. But anytime there is a signature on a document, the person still has to be before the notary every single time, because there has to be a personal appearance before the notary. The signature by itself doesn't hold weight without the person vouching for their signature before the notary that can properly identify them. Okay, so this is something you really do need to understand and remember, because you have these people who try to run game on us all the time. You got to understand how to not be the person who get screwed over when this happens, and you should always know your law. The law says it very clearly. They have to have personal appearance. And if you don't see them, to talk to them and shake their hand, touch them, then you can't move forward with that notarization. There's no telecommunication as far as doing a voice call or FaceTime, none of that. This is not how we actually are able to conduct business here in the state of North Carolina when we're dealing with, again, personally appearing or someone having a personal appearance for us to notarize something. So again, if they're not there in your face to actually vouch for their signature, then you can't move forward with that notarization.
I told her no. I just didn't know if it was a loophole or something when you said credible witness. I had to ask.
I appreciate that too, because again, you're not the first one that's going to have this type of situation. Trust me, people are trying to be very crafty with their things, and who knows if the seller actually signed it. And that's one of the problems, because if you would have notarized it, someone else could have purchased the car, had everything in their possession, and now it's going to be later they could go to court and say, I never signed this title. I don't know what they're talking about. And so if the notary have whoever the notary is now going to have to confirm if that person actually was there in front of them, and how can they prove that? And this is the reason why it's important to have your journal, because if you have your journal and they are signing your journal, you have proof someone was there in front of you and signed that name. You know, it could be someone who was an imposter, but at least you have something to vouch for when it comes to information that you recorded 5 years down the road, when someone actually may have gotten out of the hospital. They may have been in a coma. Anything could happen, you know? So this is why it's important for you to understand some scary situations are happening out there, guys. And you've got to be proactive and diligent in understanding the laws that we are responsible for upholding. People are going to feed you a little fairy tale just so they can see if they can get over on a situation. People are desperate, and you have to be smarter than that. So again, allow the law to protect you so you can protect others with what we're responsible for doing. Miss Vicky.
I had a call tonight about a title. Last week, same thing. They will try to get over, and they'll give you the sad story. I'm all the way in Florida or something, you know what I'm saying? Something, and I got this title, and what can I do? The seller signed it, no notarization. I'm just saying, I just made that up, that part, the Florida part. But, or can I mail it back to you? Can you know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I need the seller to appear in front of me before I can do that title. Tonight, it was the same thing. I was like, I don't know what it is with titles.
It's a hot commodity. I mean, it doesn't take
Yeah.
when it comes to people flipping a vehicle, that's their goal: get quick money and keep it moving to the next one. And that's just why it's so dangerous.
And
if
the
you're
guy
not,
was like, well, a notary did it for me before. I said, look, it's not worth me losing my commission over $10, right? Or doing something.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Really? I
Mhm.
said, I'm not doing that. That notary should not have done it for you. If it happened before, it was not right. It was illegal. You know, you
Mhm.
have to have that seller appear in front of you, but people will try to get over on you. So just be careful. I had it, and this is another crazy scenario. I did all, someone called, asked them about their ID, all of that, what type of document, da 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 da. Why did they appear in front of me and they show me the letter? And I'm like, who's Angel? Who is Angel? Your name is Talia. I'm supposed to be notarizing your signature. Angel is the
Wow.
boss.
Mm.
So I'm saying the boss has to appear in front of me, in order for me to notarize this. It was like a letter of employment, that sort of thing. I'm like, your boss needs to appear in front of me. So we'll see what happens tomorrow if the boss shows up. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So
Mhm.
again, guys, fraud happens very quickly. And if you're not paying attention to detail, you can find yourself in court having to prove that you did your due diligence and what could have went wrong. And you don't want to be on the other side of the wrong. Okay. So again, take the time to look over your manual, ask questions, reach out to your instructors. So that way, if you do have questions, they can help you. Hopefully, when it comes to the fact that you are one of their students. Again, I am open to helping anyone when it comes to a notary question. It's all about availability. It's only one me. And so the more that we can actually be in these rooms and talk about the different things that we will be coming across, it will help you be in a position that you can help another notary. The goal is to be able to know how we are able to conceptualize information and be able to identify where that information can be found for factual confirmation, and then being able to guide others. So I am here for you guys, and I want you to be there for one another, because this is the whole point of having community. Ms. Vicky, did you have something else you wanted to share?
Yeah. When could you use a subscribing witness? Like when someone had to sign in advance and you say, well, yeah, yes, I know their signature. Now I know you can't do that on a card title, but could she have done it for that other one she was referring to, the subscribing witness gobbledygook stuff is thingamabob? And I've got to drop off for another meeting, so I'll catch the rest of it later on the replay.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to talk about that later, Ms. Vicky, because I need to get some clarity on the subscribing and what you was referring to. That was a comparison.
Just
But
in
yeah,
general, when can you use it? So yeah.
So you can use a subscribing witness as long as the party that you're actually, I guess, on the document doesn't state otherwise. But it can only be done on acknowledgement. Okay, so that is something that we will go over probably a few more weeks from now. Some we have talked about it in the past. So if you can look at any previous replays, that may help you guys to look through your manual to kind of identify what a subscribing witness is. But since we're running out of time, that is definitely a whole topic by itself. I hope you guys have a good night. Camille, did you have another question, or your hand was still up from before?
I was really just going to share that I was at a car repair shop last week, and came up that I was a notary when I was waiting for my Uber to pick me up. So the guy said, "Oh, okay, you're a notary." He says, so you can notarize car titles." I said, "Yeah, I sure can." And he says, "How much do you charge?" And I says, $10 for every signature that I witnessed. And he said, "Okay." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, I'll pay you $20. And every time I get some titles in, I'll call you." And I was like, "Well, will the seller be there?" And he says, "Oh, no, not sometimes, but not, not all the time. I have another lady that does it. And we just pay her $20. And I was like, "Well, you can keep calling her because I can't notarize anything that the person is not here." Just wanted to share that.
And they are the worst. They are the worst And so again, it's unfortunate that this notary may get caught up in some illegal activities because it's just a matter of time. I'm telling you, just a matter of time. Monica.
There's a few things. I don't know if you could check them and then answer them when we get off, but there's a few questions that was still lingering in the chat about fees, about extra fees. Could we charge extra fees for holidays, weekends, after hours, hospital fees, nursing home fees, rehab fees, prison fees? And do we get the money up front, 50% up front?
Okay, if you guys have about 10 more minutes, I definitely want to answer this question, and I want you guys to get this information because you still can get it from the replay, but based on statute, there's only two fees, that we can charge. Our notarial fee for witnessing a signature that we're notarizing. It doesn't matter what time of day, night, midnight. That's the whole point. The general statutes is very clear. There's no administrative fees. There's no such things as an emergency fee. There's no such thing as inconvenience fee. As a notary public, as a public official, we only have the general statutes that says $10 per notarial fee. Okay. When it comes to a notarial act, I'm sorry. And then when it comes to the travel fee, if you choose to charge for travel, that is the one that you can get paid up front. You can never get paid up front for a notarial act that you've never performed. Okay. That's the reason why there's a certain order of operation. Travel fee, you can actually, again, have an agreed upon amount before you actually leave your home or wherever you're at to meet your customer. That needs to be agreed upon first and in writing. You can, again, make arrangements for you to digitally get that fee up front before you come see them. When you see them, once you perform the notarial act, then you can get paid for that notarial fee. That is the only thing you can actually get paid for. So again, you got to understand who you are and what is governing our pay when it comes to any fees that we charge. And that's why I'm going over this, because someone feels that, oh, well, if I have to go out, you don't have to do anything. We're not obligated. If you feel that it's going to be inconveniencing to you, then you can tell that customer, I apologize, I am not available, but here is the website. You can see what other notary may be available at this time. Now, why are they calling you? Is it somewhere on your social media, your Google business profile about your hours of operation? Because if your hours of operation says 24 hours, why would you even put yourself out there if you know that you don't have a staff to work 24 hours around the clock? That's deceptive practice. And this is why it's very important for you to know that you have to make sure you're being honest, transparent about what you can and cannot do, because it looks good, but is it realistic? So you want to make sure that when someone's calling you at 3 o'clock in the morning, why aren't you answering the phone? You saying 24 hours. So once again, you are doing yourself harm when you're not being honest about your true availability. Okay, so please avoid from doing that. I'm gonna get to Zoe, and if you have another question, Monica, I'm gonna get back to you, or if you're reading from the chat, and I appreciate your help with that. Yes, Zoe.
This is along the lines of put someone potentially charging additional fees. I saw someone's page where it said an apostille is $250 is like their starting rate. Is that
okay?
On average what it would what you should charge someone for?
So let me I can summarize how that can look. Okay, the notarial fee can never be over the $10 per notarial signature that's witnessed. But if someone is asking for someone to offer apostille, courier, and facilitating services, that is separate from your fee of notarizing a document. So just like your travel fee being itemized that needs to be itemized separate from your notary fee, that they can charge a certain starting rate of $250. So that's what I charge. And it has a lot to do with the additional fees that come with what all I do and provide a service outside of me working with the notarization. Okay, so you have to be very clear with what those fees are going toward, because there's so much more involved if you are going to take the responsibility to courier these documents, making sure they get to the Secretary of State's authentication department, and then making sure that you get them back to get back to the customer. So many times customers will come to us as a notary asking us for the services because they want to make sure there's no errors on their part when it comes to filling out this cover sheet that's required and making sure everything is done per the book. We can't tell them how to fill it out. So again, if you separate your services to be a courier and a facilitator, just like being a courier and a facilitator of loan signings, that is something similar in the same regard. You have to know exactly how you charge your rates to the customer versus a company in the capacity that you actually are working in. So again, that's another conversation. And when it comes to Tina Jones Howard, she is the apostille queen, in my opinion, for North Carolina. So she can help anyone who wants to be set up to actually facilitate and courier apostilles. This is a great opportunity for you guys to network and know that she's in Wake County, so she's my courier. And when it comes to how we position things, again, it's all about knowing a little bit more, getting more education and knowledge so you don't mess up anybody's livelihood, because these are some serious documents when it's dealing with apostilles and pretty much everything we do as a notary. So again, you want to treat everything the same when it comes to it being serious business and taking care of it and protecting that information. Okay, so all of those things kind of work hand in hand. And if there are any other questions that were missed, I will try to go over everything in the chat to actually follow through with the recap so I can make sure everything is addressed for you guys. Again, as always, I appreciate y'all coming. Let me just actually do my last slide. And so again, if you're watching the replay, I'm just asking everyone to take the time to subscribe, like my channel, and share. So again, the goal is to have conversation where you can actually interact by writing a comment. These are some great opportunities to still get some of your questions answered when we're not live. But if you're wanting to join us, of course, on our Tuesday Notary Tune-up, just join the Confident Notaries of North Carolina Facebook page group, and you'll be able to be accepted once you pass all of the credentials, because I have to verify that you are an active notary in the state of North Carolina. And then you can come on board to the community and just be able to have a place that you are safe, a safe space that you belong, and really get the information that you're needing, the community that is deserving in both ways. So again, thank you guys for taking the time to rock with me tonight, and I look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday Notary Tune-up. Okay.